Hi, and welcome to another episode of SMECO Connects. My name is Sonja Cox, and I'm your host, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Tom Dennison.
Wow, it's a pleasure to be here. Another podcast in 2026,
Yes.
and it's a busy time of year.
It is.
And I think we want to talk about the Maryland General Assembly and kind of what do we have in store for us over the next 90 days and kind of how we deal with stuff. So from your perspective, Sonja, what we're dealing with right now in the state is, high electricity prices.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with a lot of generation issues. So from your perspective, kind of like what are your top concerns right now for the session, and then I'll kind of talk about like what the plans are going forward and some of the bills we're likely to see.
Okay. I guess the top concerns are going to be, is there anything we can do to reduce prices?
Yes.
And what kind of bills are going to be introduced that might go counter to that,
Mm-hmm.
if any, and what kind of new regulations or things that they might put on us as in the industry, and how to manage around those things.
Yeah, and I think that those are always the top concerns that we have. And the General Assembly meets for 90 days. So it started on January 13th and it ends in the second Monday of April. So it sounds like a long time, but it's a compressed timeline. And there are major pieces of legislation that are introduced, and they have hearings, and there's extended markups where we propose amendments, and lots of discussion goes on to try to come out at the end on whether a bill is going to pass or fail. So I am fortunate that I've been able to be SMECO's lobbyist, or one of a couple of SMECO's lobbyists for almost 20 years now. Mm-hmm. And a lot has changed in Annapolis. And I mean, a lot of things are good. A lot of changes are good in terms of allowing more access to the public. You can now testify remotely. You can file testimony remotely, and makes it a lot more user friendly, I think, for people to get involved with the process. And then I think just generally for a SMECO, an electric utility, we're constantly working with legislators on educating them about the co-op and how we're different than investor-owned utilities, how we're not for profit, how we buy our power, why we invest in certain projects, and when we invest in certain projects, explaining our rate structure, all in the hopes that when new legislation is proposed, that we don't get adversely impacted by it.
Right.
So in your career, Sonja, you've seen a lot of things come and go in terms of renewable mandates and things. And what has been like the kind of signature thing that you've seen over the years that has really impacted us at SMECO?
I think when we got the bill signed into law that allows us to manage our power supply portfolio.
That was a big deal.
It was.
That was what, 2006-ish, 2007, 2008?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Was it Ehrlich that was governor when?
So it was O'Malley. Yeah. So O'Malley was governor, and I had just started at SMECO. And we were in the process of ending our all requirements contract where we got all of our power from Pepco.
Right.
And then we needed to do this power portfolio, which was new at the time. And you were CFO, correct?
Actually, I was working on the power supply side before I became CFO.
Oh, okay.
And then when I became CFO, we moved power supply under me so I could keep it.
Yeah. And so what the bill did, if I remember correctly, was we had opportunities in the market to get better, longer term contracts.
Right.
And the Public Service Commission had some pretty strict rules on the length of contracts we had. And so through through your work and my colleague and I at the time, we were able to get a bill introduced and then go through the process and then get it signed by Governor O'Malley. And I'll never forget that day. That was a big deal. That was certainly the first major piece of legislation that I ever worked on at SMECO. So that was a big deal.
Yeah, it really did change things for us a lot. I mean, so I remember before that bill got passed, we were up at the PSC for a hearing about it. And we had the chief risk officer from ACES was with us. We became a member of ACES. And by a member, I mean, we're a member owner. So ACES is set up just like a co-op as well. It's not for profit and all that stuff. So when we didn't have our full requirements contract anymore, we needed to figure out how to replace that power. And what happened was we had gone out for different bids on a full requirements contract. And because the state had gone to retail choice, all these full requirements contracts were coming back with like a 40% risk premium on them because, if retail choice took off and we lost half our load, then they're stuck with the other half. Right. So they were adding these risk premiums. So that's why we looked around for something that would help us better manage our costs. So that's how we ended up in ACES. But anyway, we're up at the Public Service Commission having a hearing, and they started asking all these questions. And like you said, they were having trouble with the terms, the lengths of some of our contracts and all that. And I remember breaking for lunch, and we walk outside, and Joe Slater was the CEO at the time, and he looks at the ACES chief risk officer, and he's like, how do we unwind all these positions?
Wow.
So we're like, we have to do something. We think this is the way to go, and we need to do something. So that's how. So
that's what led to the bill that that eventually passed. And I will say that it's a real pleasure working for SMECO in Annapolis. I think oftentimes utilities are all lumped together when it comes to legislation, but I think through a number of good relationships that we have with key legislators in Southern Maryland, many of whom were in leadership at the time. They always kind of looked out for SMECO when they could. And I think we were able to differentiate ourselves on certain things. Like I think about the solar carve out in the state of Maryland. We were able to have a smaller percentage of that solar requirement compared to investor-owned utilities, not because we didn't want to invest in solar, but it was going to be cost prohibitive and very difficult for us to have a percentage of solar that would be the same as the percentage for BG&E. I mean, it just didn't make sense. So that I just say that as an example of how we're somehow sometimes treated a little differently. Yeah. And that's a good thing. And I think that's what our job is to explain why we need certain things a certain way versus just being lumped in with the investor-owned utilities.
No, I agree completely. We're always trying to get the best value for our membership.
Exactly. And we're always stressing that. Right. I mean, there's no like hidden agenda here. We're simply trying to provide safe, reliable electricity at the lowest possible price, period. And so if we can continue to do that, I think most legislators recognize it. And look, I mean, this session coming up, or this session that we're in now, I mean, here we are. We've got an election year this November. November is an election. And we have new committees that are going to be dealing with utility issues because we have a new Speaker of the House who reassigned some of the subject matter to different committees. So it's incumbent upon us to introduce ourselves to members of the House and Senate who may not have really dealt with utility issues before. So that's going to be a challenge, I think, for us, but it's a challenge that I kind of look forward to. We have a good story to tell, and most legislators are very eager to learn. And so I know you always like to talk about SMECO and whether it's at a community meeting or in Annapolis. So I know that's something you enjoy as well.
I do. Yes. I like to tell our story and I take all the negative stuff personally and try not to, but it's not easy sometimes. And I mean, I think we've done a great job with managing our costs the way we have on the power supply side. You know, that's the biggest part of the bill anyway. So what it's like 60-70% of the bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know, that's where we can actually do some saving if we manage that correctly. So and we have ACES to help us do that. And then with your work in Annapolis to look out for us and make sure that, you know, we're trying to do what's best for our membership, and that the people in Annapolis understand that and understand that difference, I think is very important.
No, and I think, like I said before, there is a recognition that we're different, but there's also a responsibility that we have to make sure we're sitting at the table when these major issues are being talked about. I mean, this session, there's going to be all kinds of discussions about new generation. How do we get steel in the ground, and how can we get more power in the state of Maryland, whether it's renewable, whether it's thermal, however we can do it. Who builds it, and how do they pay for it? We got to be a part of those conversations.
Right.
And I'm glad that that I've been afforded the opportunity to be up there, and people listen to us and want our perspectives, because that's important when they're. I mean, we're a pretty large co-op. We have 180 some thousand members, but compared to BG&E that has over 1.5 million electric customers, and Pepco, who has, you know, little short of 1 million, 800,000 or something. Right. We just have to be able to stand out and raise the flag for our membership, and I think that's something I'm really happy to continue to do.
Yeah, I know you're going to have a long session this year.
It is going to be, and it's going to be rough because of the situation we're in with power costs.
Right.
I mean, power costs, unfortunately, have gone through the roof.
Right.
And it's market driven. It's not it's just a simple economics lesson of supply and demand.
Right.
When our power grid, whenever it's projected to grow by, you know, a very steep curve, and we're retiring plants and not building new plants to help meet that load, that's going to send a signal to the market that is going to raise prices.
Basic economics, just like you said earlier, supply and demand.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier too, about even if you were permitted to build a new, say, gas plant.
Yes.
It's going to be the 2030s before it's finished.
Yeah. And there's no easy fixes. There's no quick fixes.
You can't get the materials and the lead times and that kind of stuff. There's nothing quick about it, like you said.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be real substantive discussions this year about what goes into an electric bill, like the line items you see on the electric bill. I think there's going to be a discussion about Empower Maryland. Empower Maryland, as you and I know, but many of our viewers might not know, but Empower Maryland is a charge on your bill that goes up based on how much electricity you use. And so it can be like on my bill alone, I can say that it's, you know, between $20 and $30 every month. Can you just eliminate that program and just say, get rid of Empower Maryland? It's very difficult to unwind that watch. There are programs in place that have been in place since 2006, and just kind of ending them is, I just don't know how you would do it logistically. But I think
that is a state mandated program.
And that is a state mandated program. And all of our renewable energy that we have to purchase, again, it's a state mandated program. It does drive up costs in some senses, but we also have the environmental benefits that it provides. And so we actually have a solar farm, and we have contracts with other solar farms. So, I mean, it's we go through those mandates, but and abide by those mandates, but we do it at the lowest possible price that we can.
Right. And then today, I mean, we're in Reggie as a state.
Yes.
Which today I found out that adds about $10 a megawatt hour to your power costs.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that a lot of people don't realize that. But like you said, it's not that it's a bad program.
Right.
You're trying to reduce greenhouse gases and that kind of stuff. But, it is something that adds to costs, just like the Empower program does.
Yeah. And I think you're going to see a very hot spotlight on those issues. And I think it'll be incumbent upon us and the legislators to understand the impacts and then just the mechanics of trying to adjust those programs, because you got to keep in mind that the Maryland Public Service Commission authorizes all those programs. Our billing and our rates are structured around those programs that are approved by the Public Service Commission. There's a lot of belts and suspenders attached to those programs to make sure that we're trying to do things as cost effectively as we can, but we're also got to follow the law.
Right.
So when you're out talking to people, Sonja, about the coming legislative session, any goals that you would have that we would try to achieve, or any other specifics that you want us to kind of focus on?
Well, just like you said, being at the table, making sure we're there and that our voice is heard and that we're advocating for our members. And you do a great job of that. And I have no doubt that you'll do the same this year. I just want to be able to, when we talk to our members, say, here's what we're doing for you and here's what we're trying to accomplish in Annapolis to make sure that we can keep the costs down.
Yeah. And we'll do it. And we almost went an entire podcast without saying the words data center. But that's going to be a massive issue again this year. I mean, we've seen bills have already been introduced to just outlaw data centers in the state of Maryland. There's been bills that would require data centers to have their own power source to try to not take power off the grid. So again, very big, expensive, substantive issues that are going to be kicked around over the next 90 days. So we're ready for it, and we're going to be at the table. So I glad for the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, me too.
Great.
We'll have to come back and do a follow-up after session is over.
Absolutely. And I think, right now it's the beginning of the dance. If you always kind of describe it, everybody's just sort of feeling their way. We're all trying to figure out what the next move is going to be. And then right around St. Patrick's Day, things start getting real. And then before you know it, it's going to be April Fool's, and then session will end shortly thereafter. So I always mark it by Valentine's Day, everybody's still loving each other. Then St. Patrick's Day, everybody has a beer together after they argue. And then April Fool's Day could be anything. And then the end of session, we'll pick up the pieces. So it'll be fun.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Thank you.